Hi, my name is Emma Davies. Today on Food Chain, we are taking a different turn. We are talking about almost all the issues in the Agric sector or the top issues in the sector. I'm joined by Mr. Edward Caretaker, who is the General Secretary for the Agricultural Workers Union, and he'll be sharing his opinion. We all know he's a loud voice in the sector. Mr. Caretaker.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you in my office, and then also to seek my views and the views of my union on pertinent issues in respect of agriculture and the entire economy.
Thank you. We are in 2023. What should we expect for the agriculture, or what do you expect for the agriculture sector?
Well, the economy is made up of many sectors, and agriculture is one sector, and the sectors have interrelationship. So when there's a problem with the entire economy, one should not expect that a particular sector will be singled out to be doing well. So as we are all aware, our entire economy is challenged, seriously challenged, and for that matter, agriculture itself would also be seriously challenged. Even though when our economy was not as challenged as it is today, agriculture was not doing well as it was expected to be. So we should expect a very bad year for agriculture because this is a productive area. You know, it goes with production, and production requires investment. You know, and investment must be appropriate, you know, surgical and then targeted. And production must also employ technology and stimulus. You know, you can't choose to, you know, delay part of the process because it's a process. So those things must be done timelessly. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that we will be able to do all those things this year because we have never been able to do them well, and that's why we are where we are today. But
the government statistician makes the point that, or according to data gathered for last year, the sector did fairly well than the other sectors. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that is also one of the problems that we have in this country when it comes to, say, comparisons. You know, if you are comparing one sector to the other, doesn't make it that sector which is doing well among the others is actually doing well. Agriculture is one big sector and which does not depend largely on state resources, and indeed it is also insulated from most of the real challenges within the global dynamics. So when agriculture appears to be doing better than the other sectors, it doesn't mean that we are doing well. Seriously, agriculture is performing badly. Beyond that, if you look at the structure of our economy, this is agrarian economy. This is our major strength. Manufacturing is not our strength. Construction is not. It's agriculture. And if agriculture is not doing well, then of course that is problematic.
What is your yardstick for measuring this? Because according to the statistician, he's using other sectors to measure the growth of the sector. Well,
I think that that measurement for me is not the way we should go. The mere fact that I've not had enough to eat, but the quantity of food I've eaten is more than yours, does not still take away the fact that I've not had enough to eat.
Okay.
So comparing agriculture with the other sectors in terms of performance cannot be a very good scientific way to say that agriculture is doing well. One thing we need to know is that what did we do to agriculture? As far back as 2020, when His Excellency the President was reading the State of the Nation address, that was on the 5th of January 2021. He indicated that maize production for 2020, that was a COVID year, had gone up by 110%. And rice production had gone up by 48%, nearly 50%. What that meant was that even in COVID year, our agricultural production had exceeded its limit, more than doubled. That is over 100%. And rice production was nearly 50%. But in 2021, 2 months after that revelation, there was no maize in the system. You know, poultry farmers had not got maize to be able to use for their farms and for their poultry. The price of kenkey went up. There was no maize anywhere. Price of maize had gone up. So you then ask the question, if we had had such a phenomenal growth, more than doubled in the COVID year, and just 2 months, 3 months after harvesting had taken place in 2021, we had not got maize in the system. Was it proper for us to trust those figures? So for some of us, we challenged the figures and we said that His Excellency was misled by those officials who gave him the wrong figures. And it stayed like that in 2021. By June, July, there was no fertilizer in the system. You know, the subsidized fertilizer was not there. Farmers were looking for it, they could not get it. The Honorable Minister, then, that is Dr. Friye, came out to explain that, yes, the shortage was caused as a result of government inability to pay for supplies that were given to them in the previous year. So fertilizer suppliers were no more ready to continue to supply them. And I'll refer to 16th July 2021 front page graphic. You know, prior to that, the day before, that's 15th, the ministry even came out to say that we're going to have a challenge in agricultural output because there was drought in about 4 regions. You know, beyond that, there was actually floods also within the period. You recall that in the year 2021, even the flood was said that newly constructed roads in the Upper West were washed away. How much more crops and then livestock and human beings? But so we predicted that, given all these challenges, there was going to be shortage of food at the end of 2021. The ministry challenged it and said that we're still going to have a bumper harvest. We never got it. And then in 2022, we also the hikes in the food prices.
But the minister always tries to prove a point, and he did so by selling some of the produce at the ministry.
Yes. So in 2022, when there was no food stuff, we also the prices went up. But you see, we have a very strong position against the ministry trying to be in denial and government being in denial and creating the impression that our agricultural system production is doing well when in actual fact it's not. You know, when the ministry decided to engage in the PFG market, we said it was a wrong thing. What were you selling? Plantain. It's not part of the planting for food and jobs area of expenditure. You know, government never supported plantain producers to produce plantain. What they supported was maize, rice, soybean, and the rest. Instead of to focus that and tell us that there was maize, there was rice, there was soya, they never did that. And indeed, there was no maize in 2022. And beyond that, in 2022, government seriously de-invested in agriculture. Because one, the fertilizer subsidy for 2021 was 36%. In 2022, they reduced it to only 15%. So, given that prices of fertilizer remain same as in 2021 for 2022, it means the farmer had to cough more money to be able to buy the same quantity of fertilizer that he or she was able to buy in 2021. But beyond that, the price of fertilizer had doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. So farmers cut down their farm size. Farmers could not buy the quantity they needed. Therefore, yield per plot will fall, because if you have low application of fertilizer, then you should not expect to have more.
I don't know.
I'm saying all these things because to tell you that we had not done well for agriculture. So for 2022, there was no way out we could have a good yield in 2022. So if you don't have a good yield in 2022, as we speak now, in January, February, March, April, May, we are going to continue to consume the food that we produce in 2022. So if 2022 output is low, there's no way our 2023 output will be good, because prices of food will go up. So I'm surprised that it is like it's a good thing that among the other sectors of the economy, agriculture appears to be doing well than the others. That does not mean that there's enough food for us to eat. So for us, we are not so much about the statistics, we are so much about what is available, what is affordable in the market. And as we speak now, if you move into the market, prices as we have them last year, for instance, in the northern part of the country, a bag of maize, that is 50 kg bag of maize, was costing around 150 to 200. Today it's over 500. You know, so it now tells you that coming February, March, April, May, prices will go up far more than we have today. So certainly agriculture is not doing well. And in natural fact, the planting for food and jobs is a failure.
The point about the fertilizer, I don't remember if you were the one or Anthony or the peasant farmers. They mentioned that the subsidized fertilizers do not meet the quality, so they still end up buying their own fertilizers.
Look, there are some things that sometimes we don't say them. The subsidized fertilizer is of poor quality. You know, it's of poor quality. So when farmers even buy the subsidized fertilizer, they simply buy what? Poor quality fertilizer. And when they put it in their farms, they do not get the expected yield.
Has this been addressed to government?
Who is going to address? They know about it. They know about it. You know, sometimes its government is just refusing to listen and to do the right thing. There's nothing that they are not aware of. If the ministry claims that they have got directors all over the districts, if they say they have got regional directors all over the regions, if they claim that they have got extension officers all over, how come that they are not aware of this? I'm just telling you that sometimes, you know, it's very difficult to understand why the ministry will close its eyes and say certain things that they are doing. One, you cannot use foreign exchange, very hard foreign exchange of this country, to import fertilizer, and then you allow that fertilizer to be smuggled out. And it is the same ministry that came out to tell us that, look, fertilizer smuggling had reached a new phenomenon. It has taken a new dimension to the extent that animals were then involved in the smuggling. And they singled out donkeys that were smuggling fertilizer unaided by human beings. And then they saw the donkeys, but they could not arrest them because they were no human beings. And that is bizarre. And that is so frustrating. So if you have your farm, if animals are destroying your farm, because they are no human beings, you will not disturb them. It tells us that there is state complicity, there's state, lackadaisical attitude. They just don't care because the money does not come from their pocket.
And now new funding has been allocated to the PFG. Do you think that's the waste of money?
Well, funding is important to drive home a policy, because a policy, however good it is, requires some resources to be able to implement it. Unfortunately, however, in Ghana's case, funding is not necessarily the solution. We have had so much funding in PFG. We have had over 4 billion Ghana cedis funding in PFG. What are the results? What is there to show? You know, so much as we appreciate that we are increasing funding in agriculture, our major problem is that this funding never gets to the farmer. Because, and we say this authoritatively because the minister and the Ministry of Agriculture came out to tell us that the fertilizer that Ghana government spent money on was smuggled out. You know? And I'm telling you that on the ground, when you see things, you just see that no, this cannot be smuggling by farmers. A truckload of fertilizer, this articulated truck, 2-3, arrive in a district. The farmers are ready to buy. They say, wait, we'll sell to you. By the following one, you cannot find those vehicles. Where have they gone to? They've all disappeared into the other countries. Don't we have security? How can you smuggle out a whole truck of fertilizer of that nature? Which roads? We know our borders are porous, but it does not mean that such heavy vehicles can pass anywhere at all and cross to the other countries, because the roads are no good. They are not even roads. They are footpaths. So you see, so they have passed through the proper routes. Where is the government? You know, so this allocation is even an allocation. Let me tell you, you know, the 2023 budget, much of it is not going to be released.
Right. Because
we need to have a budget to meet statutory requirement. The Constitution requires that we present a budget. You can't present a budget without what? Allocations. Even when the economy was good, allocations in the budget were never released. In previous budgets, ministries, they cut down their budgets, what they wanted, and whatever was finally approved in the budget, by the end of the year, go and ask those ministries, go and ask those state institutions whether what was approved in the budget was released to them. Now, if you take 2023 budget, where today government is totally broke, that budget, how are they going to finance it? So it's only there on paper. By the end of 2023, when you ask them to tell you whether they've actually released the over 600 million or whatever they are talking about, you will be shocked to know that just a little of it has been released. This is what we are going to experience in 2023. And it's better for us we look at it. After all, we are all Ghanaians. If the economy is well, it is well for all of us. Yeah. If we say things that are not true, you go and verify. People will say no. But here we are. Here we are. It's so much disappointing. It's too much disappointing that are we having leaders? If we have leaders, are they capable leaders? If they are capable leaders, why is it that we are in this mess? They should come to us. They owe us a duty. Sometimes it's not about it. But if you look at the very poor people, look, you weep. What do they want? Just grain to feed themselves. They cannot get. And yet we allow money to go to waste. The Auditor General's report is there to tell all of us. Either it is COVID money or it's any other their regular audit process. There are always what? Infractions. There are always financial malfeasance. And who deals with that? These are the things. So I'm not having any hope that because there's this allocation for agriculture this year, that in 2023 it will be better. No.
But the 2022 Global Hunger Index report says hunger in Ghana has been reduced by 50% as of December 2022 because of PFG.
Well, because they are dependent on the figures.
Okay.
If the figures that we have churned out over the years, you aggregate those things, they will give you a certain result. Okay. In fact, those figures are good for people who are writing their thesis, who are trying to pass their exam in the university and so on. Okay. Because that's what you rely on. And you, of course, and unfortunately, because these are the figures that are on their websites. Yeah. You know, When you are going to the official state institution, their website, what will you find? You'll find those figures. So you are forced to take those figures. When in actual fact, what is on the ground is different.
Let's talk about the minister's resignation. How do you take the news?
Well, I think that he has given his reasons why he's resigning, or all of us know the reasons why he's resigning. He's resigning because he has got other ambitions to go and pursue that, to pursue his presidential dreams, which, of course, is within his right to do so. He has done that. He's not resigning because he thinks that he has not performed well. He thinks that he's tired and he's leaving. He wants to leave the ministry, or he thinks that he has done so much. He now wants to go and rest. No, the reason is there. So that resignation, so be it.
What do you make of his interim, the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture? She's overseeing the sector now.
Well, I think that we should not expect anything change. We should not expect anything different just because someone has come in there. In any case, you see, when you are a caretaker minister, it's different from when you are a substantive minister.
Okay.
Because you are already having your own work to do. And the Minister for Fisheries has her own challenges in that ministry. And in any case, you've just come to this new ministry. What decisions can you take there? A caretaker does not necessarily mean that you have also been given all the authority and the power to take decisions there. Because you don't know when they will ask you to step aside. Therefore, you cannot take major policy decisions there. In any case, it's not everybody that when they give you the power or they give you the chance to become a minister, you have all the authority to take radical policy changes. No, you cannot. Even where you have, it must be backed by resources. And there are no resources already for the ministry because they must work within the 2023 budget. So if you make any other policies or radical changes in the policies, where are you going to get resources to address that? You know, and you're even a caretaker. So what is it? It means nothing. I think that His Excellency, the President, could have, knowing very well that one day the Agric Minister will be leaving the office to pursue his presidential ambitions, should have looked for a substantive minister for the place. Either you elevate one of the deputies to go through vetting and become the substantive minister, or you bring a fresh person to come and do that. But given the dynamics, it suggests to me that we are not going to have any changes at all in the ministry with the caretaker minister.
Cereals and livestock, these are two things that are hardly talked about in the agric sector. Why is that so?
Well, it's because the performance of those the livestock and cereals is abysmal. It's abysmal. Look, let me tell you, all the way to Accra, the meat we have in our abattoirs, those cows come from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The goats, the sheep. So if you have to import almost all that, and not to talk about the one that will come through our ports, which has already been slaughtered and prepared and passed through our ports and so on. But the livestock, much of it comes from that place. So there's nothing to show for livestock. There's nothing. So they don't talk about it because there's nothing to show for it.
My engagement with the soya industry, players there believe that if the sector is properly invested into, it will do better than cocoa.
Well, there's always potential.
Okay.
It's just like talent. Many people have got talents, but it's not enough to have talent. You must work on your talents. As for potential, is always there. Potential can be created, and it is just like building capacity. Capacity is acquired over time. You know, if Ghana applies itself to growing soya, and looking at all complementary policies. For instance, you need processing of the soya. Look, if you look at the poultry industry, for instance, they need the cakes. You know, when they siphon all the oil from the soya, there's the fiber that is compiled into a cake, and it's that one they need for their feed. If you have the machinery here to do all those things, why not? It will help. So the potential for soya is very high, but we are not ready to apply ourselves to it. This year, that's 2022, many people went into soya more than maize, because with maize you need very good fertilizer application. You know, for maize, once you don't apply the fertilizer, whether organic or inorganic, then you should expect that you will not get a good yield. The soya, it's not like that. So farmers, being rational, they cut down their maize production and then went into soya production. But you see, when you harvest the soya, where do you sell it? So they sell it to anybody at all. And that does not, there's the value adding to our agricultural production is very low. And again, you know, agriculture must grow with industry. So if industry is performing badly, you should not expect agriculture to continue to perform good, because a time will come agriculture cannot grow beyond a certain point because industry is not doing well. For instance, plantain. Why was plantain in excess? Because we don't have the factories to process it, apart from just having the chips and so on. But if we could have a technology that could process plantain and it will be in a fresh form for months, for a year, then what we saw as a glut will probably not have been a glut, because industry is not doing well. You see, when you look at you look at soya, how do we process it? Rice, we still have problem with some local rice which has stores, but we have gone past that stage. We've gone past that stage. There are now mills, very modern mills, that process rice. Unfortunately, our rice production is also getting low. You see, I'm saying this, you know, if you look at government policy in the immediate and long term, you know that government is just not serious with agriculture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karawe. That's it for today's episode of Food Chain with me, Emma Davies. My guest was Edward Karawe, the General Secretary for the Agricultural Workers Union.